Now, for more on the KwaZulu-Natal Cabinet appointments, we're joined by political analyst Dr Fikile Vilakazi. A very good day to you, Dr Vilakazi, and thanks for making the time. What do you make of these appointments? We accede that the Department for Economic Development is a powerful department, but just that sense of Siboniso Duma, who's the chair of the ANC politically, now having to report to his junior on the government side. What are your thoughts there?
Good morning to you, Desiree, and to viewers at home. It's quite a challenging power dynamic there. I was asking myself as I was listening to the Premier, and when she announced Duma that she actually is reporting to Duma as the chairperson, but Duma also has to report to her as the Premier. And it's quite a very interesting dance of power there. It seems as if there's a move towards egalitarianism, which could be a very interesting move. South Africa is really hungry for that kind of a situation where women can be seen to lead and give instructions and also take charge over men, but men are also able to do the same. So it could be that there's some diffusion of power that is happening, decentralization of power that is happening. We just need to watch his space to see how much of it is really going to filter down into the reality of how they both operate as the chairperson, but also as the Premier, in the way that they're able to do that dance consistently. But I think it's a beautiful one if it sustains itself.
The IFP is already decrying the fact that she doesn't wield sufficient support within the African National Congress. How sustainable are these decisions that she's taking coming in?
Look, I think that the IFP could be correct. Perhaps the IFP is sending a signal of caution here, Desiree, to all of us, to say that we should not just sit and relax because we have a woman Premier. There's ululations in the province. Everybody is really seeming to be excited. It sort of brought that spirit of jubilation in the province. But that we need to watch the space, because it has been a culture really that is patriarchal in South Africa in general, that women get to be tokenized. So I don't think we should actually take the Inkatha Freedom Party for granted in making that kind of caution. I think it's going to be important to make sure that there's some kind of monitoring of the role of power and how it plays itself in the implementation and also in the working together between Siboniso Duma and the Premier, but also the Cabinet in general. But it seems, I was listening to Peggy Mtolo, Desiree, and viewers at home earlier on talking, and when he was asked a question whether the Premier will be given the leeway to appoint the kinds of people that she thinks are fit for the office, and he said, the Premier has got the prerogative, the Premier has got that kind of a leeway. So it seems, honestly, there is some letting go of power there that is happening. How much of it is a strategy for political gain in 2024, and how much of it is actually really genuine, is something that we would need to watch in the next couple of years leading towards 2024, whether it is genuine or was it just some kind of political play, So I find it very, very interesting. But there are also some pressures that are coming not just from the province, not just from South Africa. We are part of the Southern African Developing Community, Desiree. That has got a gender protocol that has been putting a lot of pressure to member states to say you need to up women representation in parliament, in positions of power in politics, and we know that South Africa ranks about number 10 or 11th following Rwanda. Rwanda already hit the ceiling of 50% of women representation by 2008. South Africa is following suit. You see 46% of women in our National Assembly. We see 36% of women in the National Council of Provinces. And today, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal has broken that ceiling by bringing 60% of women representation in the cabinet, where we have 4 men against 6 women there. And, so those moves are exciting moves in terms of, the direction that we should be taking as a country around our commitments to gender balancing the cabinet, but also around our commitment to heal the divisions of the gender wars that we've seen in the country, not just in terms of gender-based violence and femicide, but also in terms of subjugation of women in politics, the kinds of power subjugations that our mothers and our grandmothers have been subjected to over the years.
You say there are exciting moves and at an appropriate time as well as we celebrate Women's Month. But the appointment of Mbali Fraser as Education MEC, replacing someone who was seen to be somewhat efficient, KwaZim Shengu. What are your thoughts in terms of this appointment and how it can be meaningful?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one. I suppose, Premier had indicated that she would like to see more women coming up into positions of power. And in the situation of, for example, moving KwaZim Shengu, maybe they're moving him to a more strategic position. We do not know. We just have to watch the space. But it's also because Mbali needs more exposure. She needs to be able to lead a portfolio that will give her that kind of strength, in the eyes of the public, to say she can be able to deliver over and above the fact that, of course, she comes from the union sector. She has been seen doing some work there, but she needs to be seen in this portfolio delivering. It's quite a loss, I think, in terms of KwaZim Shengu, because Kwazi is a skilled cadre. He has demonstrated that over time. He's very articulate. He's very, very clear. But his resignation and moving away from cabinet, we do not know whether it is about internal politics or it is just something that, it's about looking for something else that is alternative, politically speaking.
Let's talk some more about that appointment of 60% of women in this new executive. Is this a good example coming in for the Premier, especially when it's always been said that it's difficult to bring in women? She strikes while the iron is hot. She is decisive. She brings in the women and will see the way forward. Is this a good example for leadership and decisiveness?
Totally. Desiree, this is a powerful example. This is the kind of leadership that we want to see in South Africa as we move forward to 2024. The kind of leadership that is decisive, that hits the ground running, that actually does not speak by words, but the kind of leadership that also does in action. I mean, just from the very onset, Premier committed to saying she's going to bring more women, and she did that. 60% is a lot. She mentioned 50, but I think she took it even beyond 50, which is great. So you need that kind of decisiveness. You need that kind of honesty. More than anything, it is about honesty and trust, because the trust of citizens has been eroded very deeply. As we have been saying, citizens are wounded. So you also want to start building that kind of honesty to say you don't just speak words, but you also act on them. And today we have seen that demonstration, and we are hoping, Desiree, that demonstration is going to take us to perhaps, 2024, December conference of the ANC. We would like to see even other political parties raising the voices of women, the bodies of women, but also the intellect of women and the power and the capabilities of women in politics towards this government that is really committed to a project of healing. We firmly believe that women are at the center of the healing project, particularly healing the womb of the nation. And what we mean by a womb of the nation, when you talk about a feminist and healing-led government, you are touching on the fact that when these kinds of rapes are happening within communities, the massacres that we see in various communities where young men can easily rape grandmothers, there's a war that has been declared on the womb of the nation. So if you are then raising women and mothers in terms of healing that womb of the nation, perhaps it can take us to that place, because we understand the pain of the womb, right? When the womb is being attacked in the manner that it is in South Africa, it does require somebody who understands it. It does require the embodiment of what it means to actually carry a womb that has been constantly under attack in the manner that it is in the pandemic of gender-based violence and femicide in the country. So I'm hoping that the African National Congress and the opposition parties are also following suit as we are heading towards 2024 to say it is time for South Africa to actually heal herself. And the manner in which we are going to heal ourselves is really to start to recognize the leadership of women in our country, the potential of women in our country to lead, but also to contribute decisively in this project of healing and renewal and recovery that everybody is talking about. That it doesn't just become a rhetoric, but it becomes reality as well. Desiree, I've been saying this. our mothers and our grandmothers have healed our homes over time, during the liberation period, during the struggles that we've been in the country, on racism. Who has been holding South Africa together in our homes when we were starving? It is our mothers, right? And I think that it is about time that we trust that mothers can also lead us in our political sphere, with due respect, of course, with a commitment of saying, it is a collective effort. When we are saying that our mothers must lead, we are not saying that there is no role for masculinities in society, but we are saying that the feminine divine has risen. The era of COVID-19 has brought us into that time that says we need to heal ourselves as a nation. Climate change is showing us all of that. And who is now supposed to be at the forefront of that project of healing? It's a woman everywhere, all over, not just in South Africa. And I hope that we are able to read that. I hope that we are able to see that it is my conviction and my deepest reading that I think uNomusatu Bengcube is going to do that work in KwaZulu-Natal, and hopefully the ANC will be a good place for her to hold it. My suspicion is that it is not.
Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, some very powerful metaphors there, just in commentary about gender-based violence and weaving that into our conversation. But let's talk about two appointments, just to wrap up our conversation. Former Premier Sihle Zikalala and the former Mayor Ntuthuko Mahlaba. What significance does their presence in this executive hold for the new Premier?
Sihle Zikalala was a very interesting one. I didn't expect that Sihle would actually accept the position of being an MEC. Very, very powerful expression of humility there. And I think it's going to be of benefit. I mean, he does have the expertise. He has the experience of leading government. He's a former premier. And I'm hoping that he will then be able to hold hands with Umama uNomusatu Bengcube towards leading. So that was quite an interesting one. I did need to mention that. And I think it's a positive move of subject, showing that men can also subject themselves in these kinds of ways. I really had doubt at some point that it will happen.
And Ntuthuko Mahlaba, former mayor of Newcastle, have all his legal problems been cleared?
Sorry, Desiree, to speak over you. Ntuthuko Mahlaba, has got these allegations that are hanging over his head. I mean, he has been accused of a number of things, assault and so on. And he's got that kind of cloud against him. And I think it's worrying that he's being placed, to manage a human settlement without thinking about that. But also Peggy Nkonyeni. I mean, if you look at Peggy Nkonyeni, she's been put under finance, and we know that the hawks were on her at some point. So there are those things that I think the Premier would then have to really find a mechanism of working with the, cleaning up the whole corruption. We know, Desiree, that President Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered the hawks to do an investigation into KwaZulu-Natal various departments as we speak. Right? And I think that investigation is going to tell us what is the future then of candidates like Upegi Nkonyeni and Mahlaba, in particular in terms of just the cloud of corruption that is on their heads, but also the project of cleaning up. It may be that they may not stay longer. It may be that the step aside resolution may affect them, but also the MEC for health, right? Health is one of the departments that is earmarked for investigation by the hawks. Perhaps uNomagugu Simelane may be affected also as we move along. We do not know much against her name, but it may be that the discoveries under the Department of Health, as she's been an MEC, may affect those appointments. So I think the Premier then needs to have foresight in that regard to plan ahead, to say, should these happen, how then would she be able to maneuver and bring other people on board to be able to hold those positions, but also really to firmly commit to the implementation of the step-aside resolution in the province. And it's going to be a hard one, Desiree, as we know that the Taliban in KwaZulu-Natal have been standing firm to say we would like to see this resolution scrapped, and she will have to then be seen as someone that is holding those politics together to be firm within government, producing clean audits as she's committing, but also succumbing to the outcomes of those who are found to be guilty in terms of what they've been managing. At the same time, balancing power with members of the African National Congress who do not want in majority the step-aside resolution to stay, but also balancing addressing the needs of citizens on the ground who are saying we are tired of corruption. So it's quite a dicey one, but that's what leadership is about.
Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, interesting thoughts. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Desiree.
Thank you so much there, Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, helping us navigate those outcomes of the new appointments in the KwaZulu-Natal legislature with the new Premier, Dube Ncube.